At 70 years old, rich and a rancher, but dying of fear of loneliness. Stop whatever you're doing right now and ask yourself this question. What are you choosing over love right this second? Your career, your business, your pride? Because I chose a farm over love 3 different times, and now at 70 years old, I wake up at 2 in the morning screaming in terror, not because I'm dying, but because I'm dying alone. If you're over 30 and you think you have all the time in the world to find love, to build a family, to connect with people, you need to watch this all the way to the end, because what I'm about to tell you will shake you to your core. Hit that like button right now so this message reaches someone who needs to hear it before they make my mistakes. Drop a comment telling me what you're prioritizing over the people who matter. Share this with someone who's married to their work instead of to a person. And whatever you do, don't click away, because in about 40 minutes, I'm going to tell you about the decision I made last night that even I can't believe. Now listen to me, and listen good. My name is William James Patterson. I'm 70 years old. I own one of the largest cattle ranches in this county, 10,000 acres of prime grazing land in Montana. I have more money in the bank than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. I drive a brand new truck. I have a house that could fit 6 families. On paper, I'm living the American dream. In reality, I'm living a nightmare that gets worse every single day, because I'm terrified. Absolutely terrified. Not of dying, not of pain, not of disease. I'm terrified of the loneliness that swallows me whole every single night. I'm terrified of dying alone in this big empty house with nobody to hold my hand. I'm terrified that when I take my last breath, there won't be a single person on this earth who truly grieves me. And the worst part? I did this to myself. Let me take you back to the beginning. I was born in 1954 in a small town outside of Billings, Montana. My father, James Patterson, owned a modest ranch about 500 acres. It wasn't much, but it was honest work and it fed our family. I grew up understanding that land was everything, that property was wealth, that if you worked hard enough, you could build something that would last. My father drilled that into me from the time I could walk. "Son," he'd say, "a man without land is a man without power. You build your land, you build your legacy." I believed him. God, did I believe him. I started working the ranch seriously when I was 18 years old. Right out of high school, I could have gone to college, had a scholarship to Montana State. But my father needed help, and I thought, what's the point of college when I have everything I need right here? So I stayed. I worked. I learned everything about cattle ranching, about land management, about turning a profit from dirt and animals. And I was good at it, really good at it. When I was 23 years old, I met Sarah Mackenzie. She was 21, had just moved to town to work as a nurse at the local hospital. Beautiful girl, with blonde hair that caught the sunlight and blue eyes that seemed to see right through all my defenses. We met at a community barbecue. She was shy, I was awkward, but somehow we started talking and couldn't stop. We started seeing each other regularly. She'd come out to the ranch on her days off. We'd ride horses together, have picnics by the creek, talk about everything and nothing. Sarah fell in love with me. I know she did because she told me. 6 months into our relationship, sitting on my porch watching the sunset, she looked at me and said, "Will, I love you. I want to build a life with you." And I felt it too. I really did. My heart would race when I saw her truck coming down the driveway. I'd think about her while I was working. I'd imagine what it would be like to wake up next to her every morning. But I was also terrified. Terrified that a relationship would distract me from the ranch. My father had just started talking about expanding, buying the neighboring property. It was a crucial time. I needed to focus. So I told Sarah I needed time, that I wasn't ready for something serious, that the ranch required all my attention right now. She was patient at first. She understood that ranching was demanding work, but after another 6 months of me putting her second, she gave me an ultimatum. "Will, I love you, but I can't keep waiting. I want a family. I want a partner. If you can't give me that, I need to move on." I should have chosen her. I should have said, "Yes, let's build a life together. The ranch will still be here." But I didn't. I chose the ranch. I told her I understood, that maybe it was for the best, that we wanted different things. The look on her face when I said that still haunts me. She didn't cry. She just nodded slowly, like she'd been expecting it, and walked away. 2 months later, I heard she was dating someone else. A year after that, she married him. Mike Reynolds, a teacher at the high school, nice guy. They had 4 kids together. I see her sometimes in town, surrounded by her grown children and grandkids now. She looks happy. She looks like she built exactly the life she wanted. And I'm the idiot who could have been part of that, but chose acres instead. After Sarah, I threw myself even harder into work. My father and I bought that neighboring property, 500 more acres. We expanded our herd. The ranch was growing, and so was my bank account. I told myself I'd made the right choice, that I was building something important, that there would be time for relationships later, but later kept getting pushed further and further away. When I was 32, I met Jennifer Walsh. She was a veterinarian who just opened a practice in the area. Smart as hell, funny, had this way of handling animals that was almost magical. She started coming out to the ranch for calls, checking on sick cattle, helping with difficult births. We developed a friendship that slowly turned into something more. She'd stay for coffee after a call. We'd talk for hours. She made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in years. Jennifer was different from Sarah. She was more direct, more assertive. After about 8 months of our growing closeness, she sat me down and said, "Will, I like you, a lot, and I think you like me too. I want to see where this could go. I want to try building something real with you." And I wanted that too, I really did. But by then my father had died, and I'd inherited the whole ranch. I was in the middle of another expansion, buying more land, increasing the herd to 3,000 head. It was overwhelming. It consumed every waking hour. I told Jennifer I was interested, but the timing was bad, that I needed to focus on the ranch right now. That maybe in a year or two, when things settled down, we could revisit this. She looked at me with this expression of disappointment mixed with pity. "Will, there's always going to be something with the ranch. There's always going to be an expansion, a crisis, a reason to wait. Life doesn't pause while you build your empire. I can't wait around hoping you'll eventually make me a priority." She was right, but I was too stubborn and too scared to admit it. So she left, moved her practice to another county 6 months later. Last I heard, she married a rancher from Wyoming. They run their operation together, partners in business and in life. That could have been us. We could have built something incredible together, combining our skills and our lives. But I let her go because I thought the ranch couldn't spare my attention. I was wrong. The ranch would have been fine. I wouldn't have been fine without her, but I was too blind to see it at the time. You'd think I would have learned my lesson after losing 2 incredible women. You'd think I would have realized that I was making the same mistake over and over. But I didn't. I just kept working, kept expanding, kept telling myself that success in ranching was enough, that I didn't need anyone, that I was strong and independent and complete on my own. Then, when I was 41, I met Amanda Prescott. She was 38, had never been married, worked as an accountant in Billings, but had bought a small property outside of town where she kept horses. We met at an auction, started talking about horses, then about ranching, then about life. She was mature, grounded, understood the demands of agricultural life because she lived it herself on a smaller scale. We started dating, real dating, not just casual meetings, dinners in town, weekend trips. She'd come stay at my place for days at a time. We fit together in a way that felt easy and natural. Amanda knew my history. I told her about Sarah and Jennifer. I told her I'd chosen work over them and regretted it. She said she appreciated my honesty and that she believed people could change. After a year of dating, she brought up marriage. She wanted to get married, wanted to sell her place and move in permanently, wanted to combine our lives. She even said she understood if kids weren't possible at our age, that she'd made peace with that, but she wanted partnership. She wanted commitment, and I panicked. At 41, I was set in my ways. The ranch was bigger than ever, nearly 8,000 acres by then. I had routines, systems, ways of doing things. The thought of changing all that, of having someone else permanently in my space, of having to consider another person's needs and wants every single day, terrified me. So I told her I needed time to think about it. That marriage was a big step, that I wanted to be sure. Amanda gave me 6 months. 6 months to figure out if I wanted to marry her or not, and I spent those 6 months paralyzed with indecision. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to take that leap, wanted to finally choose a person over the ranch, but another part of me, the scared, controlling part, couldn't do it. When the 6 months were up, Amanda asked me for my answer. I told her I wasn't ready, that I still needed more time. She didn't give me more time. She said, "Will, I'm 40 years old. I don't have time to waste waiting for a man who can't decide if he wants me. I've given you a year and a half and 6 extra months. That's more than enough time for you to know. The fact that you don't know tells me everything I need to know. I deserve someone who's sure about me, who chooses me without hesitation. That's not you." She was right. And watching her walk away was the worst pain I'd felt since losing my parents. But even then, even feeling that pain, I didn't chase after her. I didn't change my mind. I let her go. I chose the ranch. Again. For the 3rd time, I chose land and cattle over a woman who loved me. Amanda married 2 years later, a widower with 3 adult kids. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she's happy, that his kids adore her, that she finally got the family she wanted even if she didn't birth them herself. That was my last chance. I was 41 then. I'm 70 now. 29 years have passed since I let Amanda walk away. 29 years of working this ranch alone. And let me tell you what those years have taught me. I was a fool, a complete and utter fool. After Amanda, I didn't even try anymore. I convinced myself I was too old, too set in my ways, too focused on the ranch. I told myself I didn't need anyone, that I was fine alone. And for a while, I actually believed it. The ranch kept growing. I bought more land, expanded the herd to 5,000 head, built new barns, new facilities, upgraded all my equipment, made more money than I knew what to do with. The ranch became one of the most successful operations in the state, and I was alone through all of it. In my 50s, the loneliness started creeping in. Slowly at first, just an occasional feeling on Sunday evenings or holidays. But it grew. By my 60s, it was constant, a low-grade ache that never went away. I'd finish a long day of work, come into my big house, heat up some frozen dinner, eat alone at the kitchen table, watch TV alone, go to bed alone, wake up and do it all again. Day after day after day. No variation. No one to talk to except ranch hands during work hours. No intimacy. No connection, no love. Let me stop here and ask you something, and I really want you to answer this honestly in the comments. Have you ever pushed away someone who loved you because you were scared? Because you thought something else was more important? Because the timing wasn't right? Write it in the comments, tell me about it. Because I pushed away 3 women who loved me, and now I'm paying the price every single day. If you're in that situation right now where you're choosing work or fear over love, please learn from my mistake. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments what you're going to do differently after hearing my story. The fear didn't really hit me until I turned 65. That's when I started thinking seriously about death. Not in an abstract way, but in a real, concrete way. I started thinking about what happens when I die. Who finds my body? How long before someone notices I'm gone? What happens at my funeral? And the answers to those questions terrified me. Still terrify me. Because the truth is, when I die, it'll probably be one of my ranch hands who finds me. Maybe I'll have a heart attack out in the field somewhere, or stroke out in my house, and nobody will know for hours, maybe days, until someone comes looking for me because I didn't show up for some meeting or appointment. I started having panic attacks. Full-blown panic attacks where I couldn't breathe, where my chest felt tight, where I thought I was actually dying. They'd hit me at 2, 3 in the morning. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding, absolutely convinced I was going to die right then and there, alone in my bed with no one to help me, no one to call for me, no one to even know I was in distress. The terror of that moment, when you're convinced you're dying and there's no one there, is indescribable. It's a special kind of hell. I went to my doctor about the panic attacks. He ran tests, said my heart was okay for a man my age, that the attacks were anxiety-based. He asked if I was under a lot of stress. I laughed. Stressed about what? The ranch basically runs itself at this point. I have good people working for me, the operation is smooth, the money keeps coming in. No, I told him, I'm not stressed about work. He looked at me for a long moment, then asked, what about your personal life? Do you have family, close friends, a support system? I had to tell him no. No wife, no kids, no close friends, really. Ranch hands who work for me, but aren't my friends. Business associates, people I know in town but don't have real relationships with. The doctor looked concerned. He said isolation could be a major factor in anxiety, especially at my age. He suggested I try to build more social connections. Maybe join a club or group. Maybe try dating. I didn't tell him I'm a 70-year-old virgin who's never had a real relationship. That felt like too much to admit out loud. But he was right about the isolation being the problem. The panic attacks got worse, started happening more frequently. I'd be fine during the day when I was working, when I was around other people, even if just my employees. But nighttime was torture. Every single night, lying in that bed alone, I'd feel the fear creeping in. Fear of dying alone, fear that my life has been meaningless, fear that everything I've built will be sold off and forgotten, fear that I wasted the one life I have. I started doing crazy things to cope with the loneliness. I'd leave the TV on all night just to hear human voices. I'd call the 24-hour customer service lines of random companies just to talk to someone at 3 in the morning. I'd drive into town at odd hours just to be around people, even if I didn't interact with them. I'd sit in the 24-hour diner nursing coffee for hours, watching other people, pretending I was part of their conversations. Pathetic. I know it's pathetic. But when you're that lonely, that desperate for human connection, you'll do anything. I tried online dating about a year ago, created a profile on one of those senior dating sites, put up photos of myself, the ranch, wrote about my interests. And I got messages. Several women reached out. But I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know how to talk to these women. Every conversation I tried to start felt forced and fake. How do you explain to someone that you're 70 years old and you've never been in a real relationship? How do you admit you're a virgin at 70? How do you tell someone you don't know the first thing about intimacy or partnership? I went on 2 dates. They were disasters. The first woman, nice lady named Dorothy, 68 years old widow. We met for coffee. She talked about her late husband, her kids, her grandkids. All I could talk about was the ranch. I could see her eyes glazing over. After an hour, she politely excused herself and I never heard from her again. The second date was even worse. Woman named Patricia, 65, divorced. She was more direct, asked me why I'd never married. I fumbled through some answer about focusing on work. She looked at me skeptically and said, at 70, if you've never married, there's usually a reason. She wasn't wrong. I never heard from her again either. The worst part about all of this isn't just the loneliness, it's the regret. The constant gnawing regret that eats at me every single day. I think about Sarah constantly. What if I'd married her? We'd have been together for almost 50 years by now. We probably would have had kids. I'd have grandkids now. Great-grandkids, maybe. I'd have a family. A reason to exist beyond work. Someone to share my life with, someone to grow old with, someone to hold my hand when the end comes. I think about Jennifer. We could have been perfect partners. She understood ranching, understood animals, understood the demands of this life. We could have built something incredible together. The ranch would have been even more successful with her veterinary expertise, and I would have had love. I would have had someone who saw me, really saw me, and chose to stay anyway. I think about Amanda, my last real chance at happiness. She was perfect, age-appropriate, mature, understanding, willing to accept me despite my baggage. And I let fear win. I let my need for control win. I let my devotion to this goddamn ranch win. And now she's happy with someone else, and I'm here alone, drowning in regret. The ranch hands see it. They're respectful. Never say anything directly, but I can see it in their eyes. Pity. They pity me. This old man rattling around in a big house, working himself to death over land and cattle, with no one waiting for him at home, no one who cares if he lives or dies. They go home to their families every night, wives, kids, normal lives, and I stay here, alone, always alone. I've started having these vivid imaginations of my death. I imagine having a heart attack while I'm out checking fences, collapsing in the middle of nowhere. My body lying there for hours, maybe a full day before someone comes looking for me. I imagine dying in my sleep, just not waking up one morning. How long before someone notices? A day? 2 days? A week? Eventually, someone would come check on me because I missed a meeting or something. They'd find me in my bed, dead for however many days, starting to decompose. That's what waits for me. An undignified, lonely death. Or I imagine having a stroke, not dying immediately, but being incapacitated, unable to call for help, lying on the floor of my house for hours or days before someone finds me. The terror of that, being conscious but unable to move or speak or get help, alone in this big empty house, is worse than the fear of death itself. That's the nightmare that wakes me up screaming at 2 in the morning. I've tried to tell myself it doesn't matter, that death comes for everyone. That everyone dies alone in the end, even if they're surrounded by family. But that's not true, is it? There's a difference between dying with your loved ones holding your hand, telling you they love you, and dying completely alone with no one who even cares enough to be there. There's a difference between leaving behind people who'll mourn you genuinely and leaving behind nothing but business associates who'll forget you existed within a month. A few months ago, I did something I'm not proud of. I got drunk, really drunk. First time in my life I've been that intoxicated. I sat in my living room with a bottle of whiskey, and I drank until the room spun. And then I called Sarah. Sarah Mackenzie Reynolds now. I found her number somehow, drunk dialed her at 11 o'clock at night. She answered, probably thinking it was an emergency. And I told her everything. Told her I loved her. That I'd always loved her. That letting her go was the biggest mistake of my life. That I think about her every day, that I'm so sorry. She was kind about it. She didn't hang up on me or get angry. She just listened while I rambled. When I finally stopped talking, she said gently, "Will, that was almost 50 years ago. I've had a whole life since then. A good life. I don't regret how things turned out. You made your choice. I made mine. We can't go back." Then she said she needed to go, that her husband was wondering who was calling so late. I apologized. She said it was okay, told me to take care of myself, and hung up. I woke up the next morning with the worst hangover of my life and the deepest shame I've ever felt. What had I been thinking, calling her like that? She's moved on, she's happy. She has a husband, a family, a whole life that doesn't include me. I had no right to unload my regrets on her after all these years. I thought about calling to apologize again when I was sober, but what would be the point? Better to just let it go. Better to just live with my shame the same way I live with everything else. Alone. The financial reality of my situation is absurd. I have more money than I know what to do with. Millions in the bank, assets worth tens of millions more. And what good does it do me? I live the same way I've always lived. Modest house, despite being able to afford a mansion. Simple food, few luxuries. I could buy anything I want, but there's nothing I want that money can buy. I can't buy back time. Can't buy back the chances I had. Can't buy someone to genuinely love me. Can't buy away the loneliness and fear. I've started giving money away. Set up a scholarship fund at the local high school in my parents' names. Donate to the hospital, the library, various charities. It feels good to do something useful with the money, but it doesn't fill the void. It doesn't change the fact that I have no one to leave the bulk of my estate to. No children, no grandchildren, no one who'll carry on the family name or remember me as anything other than that rich old rancher who died alone. I met with my lawyer a few months ago to update my will. Same conversation I had with my doctor, essentially. "Who are your beneficiaries?" he asked. I looked at him blankly. I have some distant cousins I barely know. They'll probably get some money just because I don't know what else to do with it. But the ranch, the thing I devoted my entire life to building, that'll have to be sold. No one in my family has any interest in ranching or any ability to run an operation this size. It'll go to auction, be bought by some corporation, or maybe divided up and sold to multiple buyers. The Patterson Ranch, built by my grandfather, expanded by my father, grown into an empire by me, will cease to exist within a year of my death. That thought haunts me. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed for, will be erased. My legacy will be nothing. In 50 years, nobody will remember William Patterson except maybe as a footnote in county records. Large ranch sold in 2026, or whenever I finally die. That's all I'll be. A real estate transaction. Second, audience engagement. I want to ask you something, and please really think about this. What are you building? Is it something that will matter when you're gone? Is it something that includes people or just things? Because I built an empire of land and cattle, and it means nothing, because I have no one to share it with, no one to pass it to. Comment below and tell me what legacy you're actually building. Not what you're planning to build someday, but what you're actively building right now with your daily choices. And if the answer scares you like it scares me, share this video. Let my life be a warning. The physical symptoms of stress and loneliness are getting worse. Besides the panic attacks, I have chronic insomnia. Can't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours a night. My doctor prescribed sleeping pills, but they don't really help. They just make me groggy without actually making me feel rested. I've lost weight because I don't have much appetite anymore. Eating alone every single meal for years kills your desire to eat. Food just becomes fuel, not something to enjoy. My blood pressure is high. My doctor says it's probably stress and isolation related. He keeps pushing me to improve my social life. Like it's that easy. Like I can just suddenly develop meaningful relationships at 70 after a lifetime of pushing people away. I've tried. I really have. I joined the Cattlemen's Association, go to their meetings. But those are just business relationships. We talk about market prices and land management and government regulations. Nobody talks about their feelings or their fears or their regrets. It's all surface level. I tried going back to church. Hadn't been in decades. Thought maybe I could find some community there, some connection. But sitting in that pew, surrounded by families, by couples holding hands, by grandparents with their grandkids, just made the loneliness worse. I felt like an alien. Like I didn't belong in this world of normal people with normal lives. After 3 Sundays, I stopped going. Couldn't take it anymore. The isolation does something to your mind. I catch myself talking to my dog. Not just commands, but actual conversations. Telling him about my day, my thoughts, my fears. He's a good dog, an Australian shepherd named Buck, but he's still just a dog. He can't respond. Can't offer advice or comfort beyond just being there. But he's all I have, so I talk to him like he's a person. I know it's crazy, I know it's a sign that I'm losing it, but I can't stop. I've also started talking to myself, out loud, full conversations where I ask myself questions and answer them. What should we have for dinner tonight, Will? I don't know, Will. What sounds good? I'm aware how insane this is, but when you go days without having a real conversation with another human being, your brain needs to hear language somehow. So I provide it myself. The worst thing about loneliness at this age is knowing it's terminal. When you're younger and lonely, you can tell yourself it's temporary, that you'll meet someone eventually, that things will change. But at 70, this is it. This is my life now until I die. The loneliness is permanent. The isolation is permanent. The fear is permanent. There's no happy ending coming. There's no third act romance. There's just this getting older and more isolated and more terrified, until one day my heart stops or my brain gives out and it's over. I've thought about suicide, I'm not going to lie about that. When the panic attacks are really bad, when the loneliness feels like it's physically crushing me, when the fear of dying alone becomes overwhelming, I've thought about just ending it on my own terms. I have guns. It would be easy, quick, painless if done right. At least then I'd be in control of when and how I die instead of waiting in terror for it to happen. But I'm too much of a coward to do it, and there's some part of me that thinks suicide is admitting defeat, and I'm too proud for that. Plus, it would just confirm what everyone probably already thinks, that I was a pathetic, lonely old man who couldn't handle his own life. So I won't do it. I'll just keep living this half-life until death comes for me naturally. I had another health scare last month. Chest pains that sent me to the emergency room. Thought I was having a heart attack. They kept me overnight for observation. Tests came back showing it wasn't a heart attack, just angina. stress-related again. But lying in that hospital bed overnight, alone except for nurses checking on me periodically, gave me a preview of how I'm going to die. In some sterile room, surrounded by machines, with strangers who are just doing their job tending to me. No family at my bedside, no loved ones holding my hand, just me and whatever overworked nurse happens to be on shift when my time comes. The nurse that night was a young woman, maybe 30. She was kind, checked on me regularly, made sure I was comfortable. At one point around 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, she sat with me for a few minutes, asked if there was anyone I wanted her to call. Family, friends, anyone who should know I was in the hospital. I told her no, there was no one. She looked so sad, pitying. She patted my hand and said, "I'm sorry you're alone." And I almost started crying right there. Because she was probably the only person in the world at that moment who cared at all whether I lived or died, and she was only caring because it was her job. When they released me the next day, I drove myself home. No one to pick me up, no one to fuss over me, no one to make sure I was okay. I just got in my truck and drove back to my empty house and resumed my empty life, and that's when it really hit me. This is it. This is what I chose. This lonely, isolated, fearful existence is the direct result of every decision I made over the past 50 years. I find myself going through old photos sometimes, pictures from decades ago. There's one of Sarah and me from when we were dating. We're at some county fair standing in front of a Ferris wheel, her leaning into me, both of us smiling. We look happy. We look like we had a future. I stare at that photo and want to scream at young William. Want to grab him and shake him and say, "You idiot, marry her, choose her, the ranch will be fine, but you won't be fine without her." There's another photo of Jennifer. She's in one of my barns, kneeling next to a newborn calf, her hands gentle as she checks it over. She's smiling, completely in her element. I remember thinking in that moment how perfect she was, how we could have been such a great team. And then I remember choosing to let her go because I was scared of sharing my life, scared of change, scared of vulnerability. I don't have any photos of Amanda. We were together during the digital age, and somehow I never took any pictures. I regret that too. I regret not having some physical reminder of my last chance at happiness. All I have are memories, and even those are starting to fade. Time is cruel that way. It not only takes the actual experience from you, but eventually it takes the memory too. My hands shake sometimes now. Early-stage Parkinson's, the doctor thinks, just adds to the list of things falling apart. My body is breaking down piece by piece, and I'm facing that deterioration alone. Who's going to take care of me when I can't take care of myself anymore? I'll have to hire nurses eventually. Strangers again, paid professionals, not family who love me and want to care for me, just people doing a job. I think about going into a nursing home in a few years when I can't manage on my own anymore. Selling this ranch I've spent my life building and moving into some facility, where I'll spend my final years surrounded by other lonely old people, all of us waiting to die. That's the future I created for myself. That's what choosing work over love gets you. The regret is a physical thing. I feel it in my chest, this constant ache that never goes away. Every morning I wake up, and for a brief moment, I forget how alone I am. Then reality crashes back, and the regret floods in. All the chances I had, all the love I rejected, all the fear that controlled me, all the wrong choices. The weight of it is crushing. I've tried to rationalize it over the years, tried to tell myself that some people just aren't meant for relationships, that I was meant to focus on building this ranch, that it's okay to be alone, but I can't make myself believe it anymore. It's not okay. I wasn't meant to be alone. Nobody is meant to be alone. I chose this. I chose wrong. And now I'm paying the price, and the price is terror and loneliness and regret so deep it feels like drowning. Last week I did something pathetic. I hired an escort service, not for sex, though they probably assumed that's what I wanted. I paid a woman to come have dinner with me, to sit across the table and talk to me, to pretend for 2 hours that I wasn't alone. She was professional about it, made conversation, asked questions, laughed at appropriate times. But I could see in her eyes that she pitied me. This sad old man paying for companionship. When she left, I felt worse than before, because the illusion of connection just made the reality of my isolation more painful. I've thought about trying to reach out to Jennifer or Amanda, thought about calling them, writing letters, something, apologizing, telling them they were right about everything. But what would be the point? They've moved on. They have lives that don't include me. Disrupting that to make myself feel better about my choices would be selfish, so I don't. I just live with the knowledge that I had 3 chances at love, and I destroyed every one of them. The panic attacks are so frequent now that I've almost gotten used to them. Almost. They still terrify me in the moment, but there's a grim familiarity to them. Wake up at 2 a.m., heart racing, can't breathe, convinced I'm dying, alone in the dark. Terror so intense it feels like it's going to split me apart. Then slowly, gradually it passes. The fear recedes. I'm alive, still alone, but alive. And I lie there in the dark, knowing it will happen again tomorrow night, and the night after, and the night after that, until one night it's not a panic attack but the real thing, and then it's over. I've started making videos on my phone, talking to the camera like I'm talking to someone, saying all the things I wish I could say to Sarah, to Jennifer, to Amanda, apologizing, explaining, begging for forgiveness I know I don't deserve. I never send these videos to anyone. I just keep them on my phone. Hundreds of videos of a lonely old man talking to himself. It's pathetic, but it's all I have. Let me ask you one final question, and please answer this in the comments, because I need to know my story is helping someone. If you could go back and change one decision in your life, what would it be? For me, it's obvious. I'd choose Sarah. I'd marry her and build a life with her, but I can't go back. You, though, you're reading this right now, which means you still have time. You can still make different choices. So tell me in the comments, what are you going to change? What relationship are you going to fight for? What fear are you going to overcome? And please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. My life is already wasted, but maybe I can help save someone else's. Last night I made a decision that even I can't quite believe. I'm going to sell the ranch, all of it. I'm going to liquidate everything, and I'm going to use that money to create a foundation. The Patterson Foundation for Second Chances. It's going to provide counseling and support for people who are isolated, who are making the same mistakes I made, who are choosing work over relationships, success over love. It's going to fund programs that help people connect with each other, build meaningful relationships, understand what actually matters in life. It won't bring me love, won't give me back the 50 years I wasted, won't erase my regret or cure my loneliness or take away my fear of dying alone. But maybe, just maybe, it will help some other person avoid the living hell I've created for myself. Maybe some young person will go through one of these programs and realize they're headed down my path and they'll choose differently. Maybe I can turn my catastrophic failure into something that actually helps people. I called my lawyer this morning, started the process. He thinks I'm crazy, selling off the ranch I've spent my entire life building. But what's the alternative? Keep it until I die, then have it sold anyway? At least this way it's serving a purpose. At least this way my wasted life might prevent someone else from wasting theirs. I'm under no illusions that this makes me a good person. It doesn't undo anything, doesn't fix my mistakes. I'm still going to die alone, still going to spend my final years in terror and isolation, still going to leave this world without anyone who truly mourns me. But at least, at the very end, I'll have done something meaningful. At least, I'll have used my failure to help others avoid the same fate. I think about Sarah sometimes and wonder if she'll hear about this foundation, if she'll see my name attached to it and understand what it means. That I finally learned the lesson she tried to teach me almost 50 years ago. That love matters more than anything else. That relationships are what give life meaning. That all the success in the world means nothing if you're alone. I wonder if she'll feel any satisfaction in being right, or just sadness that I learned it too late. The ranch hands have started to hear rumors that I'm selling. They're worried about their jobs, understandably. I've assured them that part of the sale terms will include keeping them employed, that whoever buys this operation will need good workers, and they're the best there are. I owe them that much. They've been loyal to me, even though I've given them nothing back except a paycheck. They deserve security. I'm 70 years old. If I'm lucky, I have maybe 10 years left. More likely 5. Could be less. Could be tomorrow. And I'm going to spend whatever time I have left trying to save other people from my fate. It won't save me. Nothing can save me now. The fear, the loneliness, the regret, those are permanent. They're my companions until the end. But maybe I can spare someone else this particular hell. I look at my reflection in the mirror sometimes, and I see a stranger. This old man with grey hair and wrinkles and sad eyes staring back at me. I don't recognize him. When did I become this person? When did I go from that young man in the photo with Sarah, full of potential and possibility, to this terrified, broken, lonely old man who can't sleep without having panic attacks? The transformation happened so gradually I didn't even notice until it was complete. If I could talk to young William, 23-year-old William, standing at that crossroads with Sarah, I'd tell him that the ranch doesn't need him as much as he thinks it does. That land and cattle will be fine with less attention, that they won't love him back no matter how much he sacrifices for them, that Sarah will make him happier than any amount of acreage ever could, that choosing her isn't weak, it's the strongest thing he could possibly do, that he'll regret it for the rest of his life if he doesn't. But I can't talk to young William. I can only live with the consequences of his choices, our choices, my choices, and try to help others make better ones. The thing about regret is that it doesn't fade. People talk about time healing all wounds, but that's not true for regret. If anything, it gets worse with time, because every passing year is another year you can't get back. Another year wasted, another year confirming that the mistakes you made were permanent and irreversible. The wound just gets deeper. I wonder sometimes if Sarah thinks about me, if when she's sitting at dinner with her husband, and their 4 kids and 7 grandkids, she ever has a fleeting thought about the man she almost married, the life she almost had. I hope not. I hope she's so happy and fulfilled that I never cross her mind. Because at least one of us should have gotten the life we deserved. I wonder the same about Jennifer and Amanda. Do they ever think about the lonely rancher who let them go? Do they feel relief that they escaped? Do they feel pity for me? Or have they forgotten me entirely, moved on so completely that I'm not even a memory anymore? I hope it's the latter. I hope I didn't leave any scars on them the way they left scars on me. The foundation is going to launch next year if everything goes according to plan. I'm working with counselors and therapists and relationship experts to design the programs. I'm funding research into loneliness and isolation and how to help people who are on the path to ending up like me. I'm creating scholarships for people who want to work in fields that help connect people, build communities, strengthen relationships. It's ambitious, it's expensive. It's the only meaningful thing I've done in my entire life. I won't be here to see the full impact. I'll probably be dead in a few years. But at least it will outlive me. At least something with the Patterson name will continue, even if it's not the ranch, even if it's not children or grandchildren. A foundation dedicated to preventing the kind of loneliness and regret that's eaten me alive. That's my legacy now. It's not what I wanted, but it's what I've earned. Every day I wake up and the fear is there. Every night I go to bed and the fear is there. Fear of dying alone. Fear that my life meant nothing. Fear that all my work and sacrifice were for nothing. And the worst part, that fear is justified. It's not irrational anxiety, it's a clear-eyed assessment of reality. I am going to die alone. My life has meant very little. My work and sacrifice were for nothing. The fear is just truth, wearing a different face. I'm William James Patterson. I'm 70 years old. I own, for now, 10,000 acres of prime Montana ranch land. I have millions of dollars in the bank. I'm successful by every metric society uses to measure success. And I'm the most miserable man I know. I'm dying of fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of dying alone, fear that I wasted the only life I'll ever have. And I did this to myself. I chose this. Every single day for 50 years, I chose the ranch over love, work over relationships, fear over vulnerability. And this is the price. This terror, this isolation, this crushing, suffocating regret. Don't be like me. Please. I'm begging you. Don't be like me. Whatever you're holding on to that's keeping you from love, let it go. Whatever you're afraid of that's preventing you from connecting with people, face it. Whatever excuse you're using to avoid vulnerability, drop it. Because I promise you, no amount of success or money or achievement will ever be worth the price of dying alone. Take it from someone who knows. Take it from someone who's living that nightmare right now and will continue living it until the day I die. Choose love, choose people, choose connection, choose vulnerability, choose life. Before it's too late. Before you wake up at 70, alone in an empty house, having panic attacks at 2 in the morning, terrified of the lonely death that's coming for you. Before you become me. Please, don't become me.